Hey guys, welcome to A Novel Affair.
The bookish podcast where we kiss and tell about our torrid affairs with fictional characters.
So grab a drink and get ready for some pure, unadulterated fun. Today we are going to be covering Exodus by Kate Stewart, which is the second installment in the Ravenhood series. For a more in-depth and uncensored review, you can go over to our podcast or any listening platform and learn all about our favorite scenes and, again, unfiltered conversations. Just look for the link down below.
So, are you ready for this? I don't know if I'm ready. I do have my headgear on, I have my seatbelt strapped in.
This is such a rough book. So the author doesn't actually list any triggers, which I think is ridiculous.
And I feel like this book in particular, and at least for our purposes, require a couple trigger warnings.
So the first one that I'm going to mention, what we deem to be possibly triggering, is a death of a loved one. And yes, if you've read the first book, you know this character, and you know this character well. Prepare to have your heart broken.
Yeah, another would be forced body modification or non-consensual body modification.
Also drugging.
Yep. Kind of, yep.
And definitely, I think this is the most triggering part, is a broken heart, because your heart will be broken in so many different ways.
Yeah. This one it's emotionally rough, but it's so well done that it's, I think, a must read, even though it might crush your heart.
Yeah. If you need a good cry, this is where to turn to.
100%.
So, moving on to the summary. I'm just going to read what was written as the summary because I couldn't find like an actual description of the book. It's one of those summaries that's like in first person point of view. So it says, some places make you and some break you. For Cecilia Horner, Triple Falls has done both. In the length of the summer, she's begun to forge a new path, sparked by her connection to two men, Sean and Dominic. Separately and together, they helped bring her out of her shell and into a life filled with sensuality, promise, and dangerous secrets. Now Cecilia has discovered that Sean and Dom are part of a Ravenhood, a secret group of vigilantes committed to undoing her father's wrongdoings. Her biggest threat is the head of the syndicate, the I can't say the word.
Enigmatic.
Enigmatic brute known as the Frenchman.
They call him a
A
brute. I
man.
love that. He is a brute.
He is. He is. It's 100% accurate. He's a man who's made it clear he doesn't want Cecilia anywhere near the Ravenhood, interfering with his mission and need for control. Cecilia has every reason to despise this invasive stranger for what he's done, but because she's equally as threatening to him, he won't leave her alone. And no matter how simple it should be to hate the man who's come between her and the men she's fallen for, she can't deny everything else he makes her feel, especially when the secret they create together could be the most dangerous of them all.
Dun dun dun.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
So I'm going to go ahead and preface before we dive into anything in specific that I'm going to be a little antagonistic here in this book. I have the maybe unpopular opinion when it comes to this book. And I'm not that person very often. I'm most usually on board with, whatever the author wants me to be on board with. So this is going to be a kind of a new experience for me, new take. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we are pretty much stepping right from book 1 to book 2, correct? There's no
Yes, there's
like
no prologue.
recap or anything like that.
Yeah. It picks up with the last sentence of book 1 is the first line in book 2. It literally, there's no divide.
Which I love that, by the way. I like,
Yeah.
let's just
Get right into
jump
it.
right back into the story. Yep. I'm all for that, especially because it's a super cliffhanger.
Yeah. But that will come next week. So as for Exodus, I would say that my overall rating was an 8 out of 10. These ratings were so hard. But
They always are.
content, I would say, was a 7 out of 10 because there was so much so much meanness that I felt was unnecessary to Cecilia. Like, she was a punching bag. At some point, somebody could have threw her a bone. Spice, I'm gonna say it was an 8 out of 10. It starts out pretty hot and heavy, and then we don't really get any Spice throughout the other half of the book. I actually might say a 7 out of 10, possibly an 8 out of 10 on that. Romance, I'm going with like a 6 out of 10. Again, in the beginning, it's like hot and heavy with some romance, which really you only get like a small portion of that. It's not the beginning, it's not the end, it's in the middle. Uh, the writing and the characters, again, I'm both giving a 10 out of 10 because the writing style makes you feel so much. It invokes every emotion that it's supposed to. And the characters are just so deep. Like, every character is a well developed person. I can imagine them. I could imagine everything about them, personality too. So I'm going to give them both 10 out of 10.
So we were pretty similar on a lot of ours. My overall rating is the same as yours. I give it an overall 8 out of 10. Um but some of my individual scores are a little different. So for content, I actually did a 9 out of 10. And I did that because it's not a lot of typical tropes. It is
Yeah.
something totally new, it's different, it's risky, I think, to for something to be so dark and so emotional and still be considered a romance. And so I
Yeah.
think that for content, I gave it a 9 out of 10. Spice and romance, I gave it a 7 out of 10. The spice is all right. If you're here just for spice and just for like sweet romance, this is not going to be your favorite.
No.
I would still say read it because it's really good. It'll be a good experience, but this is not really what we're here for in this one, or what we come back for, I guess I should say.
And not in book 2.
But overall, I for writing I said 10 out of 10. For characters, I said 9 out of 10. Because I like you said, everybody's complex, everybody's unique, everybody has their own story and backstory, and it's very authentic and character rich. Um, so yeah, overall, I think this is one of the better current day series that's out in terms of like there's some substance to it. It's not
Yeah.
fluff for sure.
Yeah. It's not just purely smut.
Yep.
It's it is a good book, period, in general.
And
Not just a good smut book.
I cannot highly recommend the audiobook on Audible enough. Joe Arden does the male point of view voice acting, and his French accent and his French is delicious. If there is some kind of like award for spicy romance novels, then he deserves it, because he honestly is Tobias's redeeming grace for me, because I don't think I would have cared at all or been excited about Finish Line if it wasn't for Joe Arden. So I
Joe Arden,
highly recommend.
his French accent in this book is amazing. And again,
Quality.
I will say it again. I did not think that I was going to get on board with the French accent because in my head I was like,
Not
Pepe Le
fitting.
Pew, not sexy.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
anyways, that is a wrap for this episode. As always, thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our take on this steamy book, and we will see y'all next week on A Novel Affair.
We will be discussing our next spicy book in this particular Ravenhood series, Finish Line.
Don't forget to head over to our podcast to listen to a full breakdown of this book and many others with spoilers and discussions, and you can find that link in our comments.
Be sure to like and follow us on social media and hit that subscribe button before you go. We'll see you guys next week.